darker emotions, the anger, or resentment, or frustration, and sadness, and using that as a weapon, using that as a form of offense. It's a scar. It's pain. It's a bad memory. Some people are probably afraid to tap into that side of it, but it's such a powerful thing. Once they own it themselves, then the sky is the limit, because they're going to drive themselves and pull it from who they are and all of their life experiences and things that have motivated them. I just start driving, needling, right? Pushing. They had to embrace the villain nature that's in all of us. They gave them a platform to unleash.
All right, that's probably enough. So that's an excerpt from Kobe Bryant's Muse. It's a movie or a documentary post Achilles heel. I guess he broke it or snapped it during one of his games. So there was a documentary. It's on YouTube. It's on several areas. But Kobe Bryant with double masculine, SF, is speaking a language that I understand. So now, why did I start with that clip? So for me, I've been looking into the hero's journey recently. I've been trying to go down it myself, at least according to the objective personality standards. How they define the hero's journey is a series of external tests that, when passed, transform the inner self. And I'll share links in the description when I'm done. And they talk about this process, right, where ultimately you start from one spot where you're kind of this child, you're in this fantasy world where everything's fun and easy. You realize how bad you are eventually, and then you slowly go through this process of transforming. And yes, you get external results, but ultimately it's about a shift in identity. It's about a transformation into the hero, they claim, that will be able to handle any circumstance. But for me, one thing that I realized, especially with my demons or my path, is that despite what they recommend, being that, you have to follow these alphas or have to become this alpha, meaning there are several adults or several archetypes throughout history that you would want to become more like as you go down this path. As I started looking into the identities or the people that I would want to be like, I realized that none of these identities are good people, right? I think the biggest archetype, the most popular archetype for me is the Batman, especially from the newer trailers, as well as Batman v Superman. And he's saving people, that's great, but he's also a force of, something that instills fear in people. He's very brutal, right? He takes the law into his own hands. There's not this sense of goodness that is typically associated with heroism, right? Similarly, and these ones you might not know of, Jujutsu Kaisen, a very, yes, heroic, sure, but very dark and primal show. Kobe Bryant, with the Black Mamba. David Goggins and his, transformation into what he calls Goggins, right? Jocko, and, on and on, right? I have, I'm a nerd, so, I got to have some anime in there, Hunter x Hunter and things like that. But for me, the identity that I wanted to become more like, at best is an anti-hero, but quite frankly, I would consider more of a villain. And I think in part it's due to what I'm finding with masculine FI, right? What do I mean by that? So first, let me define some terms, right? Let me go to my checklist here. What the hell is masculine FI? So the combination would be, well, three things, right? One, it would be DI, right? This you want to become a certain type of person and you want to prove the tribe wrong if they see you as less than what you are, right? The me story. There's feeling, right, in this system, which is described as priorities, values, and emotion sharing. And then finally, there's the masculine side of it, masculine DI, very agreeable on the outside world and shoving on self internally. But what I'm finding is that that combination, both intellectually and in terms of what I'm seeing in myself and in people who have this, is that that combination of becoming a certain type of person that is above others and using emotion and values to really drive that, and then finally using very aggressive and harsh emotions and values, it turns into something that is very how would I word this? Very almost antisocial in a sense, because it's selecting values that pushes itself to greatness, but that almost by definition most people will not have. Most people will not use these emotions that Kobe describes, like darkness, sadness, anger, and you see it as some form of good. And yet that is consistently what I see in myself and what I see in others who have masculine FI as the source, right? We are the danger. There are even Q&As, which I don't know where they are, unfortunately, but where Dave talks repeatedly about, hey, I would love for someone to finally break into my house, right? It's like, what the hell is your problem? But for him, he's like, I want to be the identity that if threatened can like break someone's kneecaps and finally do all these horrible things that I've been wishing to do on people. And some people cringe at that, but that's something that's extremely relatable, because the FI, the masculine FI more specifically, wants to be the villain. It wants to dominate in all situations, right? And so that's something that I'm kind of wrestling with. I'm trying to make peace with, not only in terms of this linear versus circular polarity that I'm going to be working on for the next year or two, but also in terms of my self growth and what that means for me, right? Is is this quote unquote villain nature that's in all of us, according to at least Kobe, is that really the solution, right? I personally think it is, but there has to be a way to at least either restrain it or point it in the right direction, and that's kind of the part where that scares me, quite frankly, but also that I believe is not fully addressed, neither in the system itself nor in what I'm trying to do to streamline the system. But anyway, that's my little takeaways. I think masculine FI is a very, very powerful but very cruel you know let's say function, let's say. But logically speaking, especially based on what I'm seeing, it would be the most direct or the most linear way of living, and it would secretly be what everyone else wants to be, right? Just logically for me, especially if everyone's ultimately a decider, and if everyone's ultimately a feeler, and if everyone ultimately wants to be masculine, right? So that's where I'm going to leave it. I'm going to put some description links in the description. This is my personal playlist that kind of embodies this archetype. I view it on a daily basis, or view clips on it on a daily basis. I'll put in the description. It's not, if you're interested, sure. But more importantly, I'm going to put this video in the description, as well as, just kind of them talking about the definitions of the hero's journey and this identity shift. And what that for me, I guess, just kind of think about what that would mean for someone with masculine FI, what that is. So I was gonna do this on Sunday, but I'm just gonna put it up now. And then there's a video coming out tomorrow, and then my checklist, at least it's gonna be version 2, is coming out I think on the 16th. So hope you guys have a great weekend, and I will see you guys soon.